Chapter 154 to 156. When I returned back to 21's dimension with the PDL, she immediately appeared before me with a smile on her face. However, when she touched me, my body glowed pink for a second while she cried out in pain. 21 So Cupcake, what did Saiyan? Seeing 21 hold her burnt hand in pain mentally made me happy, but I didn't show it on my face. We have something more important to deal with, and I can mock her later. Sage oh yeah, just a heads up, but Nala had engraved a rune on me that's supposed to stop you from touching me, so I suggest you don't touch me. I could see she looked quite pissed, and as much as I would like to make fun of her, we still have Tawa to deal with, so I held off on that for later. Sage anyways, I think I've figured out the solution to our problem. This is a portable dimensional lab, or a PDL for short. How the PDL works is, by squeezing it, it'll envelop us in a small mirror dimension, identical to the dimension we would currently be in. 21 That could indeed solve our problem. Let me see it real quick. As I throw the PDL to her and watch her tinker with it, you might wonder why I would do something so dumb. Well, here is the reason. 21 has gained an interest in Nala's runes, and I'm sure she would love to learn how to use them, so giving her runes may seem like a bad idea as I'm just giving her what she wants, but learning runes isn't as simple as it might sound. Nala said in order to be a runesmith you must first learn the rune language, and only then can you start inscribing runes. So unless you know the rune language, trying to comprehend an already completed rune is like trying to read a book in a different language. It's impossible, and it seems 21 has just figured that out by the look on her face. Sage so, now that you realized you can't learn runes without Nala's instructions, you don't care about it anymore. When I said that, she just looked up in annoyance before throwing the PDL back at me, with some force behind it too. If I had to guess, she was probably still mad from earlier. 21 TCH, whatever Sage, let's get going, we don't have all the time in the world. Sage, now that's the 21 I know and hate. Following behind her with a smirk on my face, we arrive at a floating portal situated in the middle of her space-time machine, or whatever it was called. 21 I'll lead the way, just make sure to stay close, I don't feel like experiencing millions of years in a blink of an eye. Jumping into the portal behind 21, when I make it out the other side, I hover beside 21 as we observe our surroundings, which look like a crazy maze with pathways leading in all types of directions. Some of them don't even lead to anything and just continue on for an infinite loop. Sage we don't have to follow the pathways and complete a maze, do we? Because if so, I don't mind destroying this entire dimension. 21 No, we don't, they're just decorations as we can fly. I already know which direction Tao's hideout's out, so just follow me, stay close by, and make sure to keep your key suppressed. We can't alert Tao too early, otherwise she'll escape again. Squeezing the PDL, we wait for the mirror dimension to envelop both of us before we head toward Tao's location. As we continue flying, the amount of maze-like pathways continues getting less and less until there isn't any more, allowing us to see nothing but grayness for as far as I can see. Now since we're within the PDL, we experience time at a normal pace, so I can't even tell if what 21 said was true about the chaotic time, though I do believe she was telling the truth. We continued flying for tens of minutes with nothing in sight until 21 suddenly stopped and hovered in place, causing me to do the same. 21 we're close by, but if we go any closer we're going to be spotted even within the PDL, so unless you have anything else that could possibly help us right now, I suggest we charge at Tao's location at full speed so she doesn't get enough time to move locations. Sage nope, none, so we're going on the count of 3 or what? I didn't get an answer, but seeing how her skin changed to dark purple was enough of an answer for me. Once I transformed into an LSSJ, we suddenly shot off at full speed, leaving a giant dimensional hole from where we launched off at. _____________. I was currently deep inside my lab while carefully working on transferring the space-time energy from the time rings into a small handheld bomb, similar to the one I had given Mira to test, as the whole purpose was to see if I could break the seal on the crack of time. The answer I got was a yes, but I would need much more space-time energy than what I alone could produce if I wanted to break open something like the crack of time. A few hours passed with me doing nothing but working. However, while I was transferring the space-time energy, my staff laying beside me started flashing red, almost causing me to lose my concentration on the space-time energy. Putting the remaining space-time energy into the container, I grab my staff to find out what or who has tripped my alarms, but the moment I do, I get angry when I realize who it is. Tao, fuck. How did that failure of an experiment and stupid berserker find my location so quickly? Damn it, they're moving too fast, they'll reach my place within a minute, and I won't be able to escape in time. Right after, Mira busted through the door and stood beside me as he waited for any instructions, but I myself didn't know what to do. I had prepared in case my base had been found out. However, the plan I created needed some time, and even if I just left everything except for the time rings and space-time bomb, I would still need more than 40 seconds to transport an explosive that volatile. Tawa, it seems it might really come down to my last plan. However, I truly hope that doesn't happen. Tawa dash, Mira, go gather all of the androids, demons, and previously defeated enemies, and tell them to prepare for battle. Tell them their job isn't to defeat the intruders but to buy as much time as possible. Mira dash, got it. As Mira left the room, I quickly stood up and started to prepare the most important things I would take when escaping. However, I still couldn't shake this bad feeling that appeared the moment my staff started flashing red. Once we arrived at Tawa's base, which looked just like a rectangular brick, well, at least on the outside, looking closer we saw several people floating in the sky with evil auras as they looked at us. I recognized some of them, however, the others I was clueless about. Sage dash, it seems like Tawa was ready for our arrival, so is she still here? 21 dash, yeah, she's somewhere deep inside that building, but it looks like we will have to take care of the appetizers first. In the distance, I see Mira, Fused Zamasu, and even Moro, though I don't know how those two are still alive, especially since I had just killed Moro a couple of hours ago. Anyways, I didn't overthink about it and charged right at the group of enemies along with 21 beside me, as since we were on a timer we decided to get this over with quickly. When we arrived just before the group, I went to the left where Mira was, and 21 went to the right where Fused Zamasu was. Once I was right in front of Mira, I sent a straight punch to his abdomen that he luckily blocked, but even so with the Zenkai I recently received it didn't matter that his strength had improved as mine was higher. While I was focused on Mira, I suddenly dodged a kick that was coming from my head and turned around spotting Super Android 17. Since I knew about him and the potential threat he could pose if he is given enough ki, I flashed behind him and stabbed my arm through his chest, clutching a cybernetic heart before crushing it. Pulling my hand back out, I start to feel my ki leave my body and look over to an old Moro in the distance, but before I could charge at him, Mira flashed in front of me while attacking with a kick. Blocking Myra's kick and dodging two punches coming from behind, I grab a hold of Myra's leg and swing him behind me, using him to hit the two enemies who sneak attacked me. Once I was free, I charged over to Moro and fired a few ki blasts at him, but I made sure to keep them relatively weak. When I got close, a dude with a white mask appeared in front of me, and while I couldn't see his face, his hair caused me to think of Kakarot. However, I still didn't stop and punched him in the face, destroying his mask and sending him crashing into the base. With the split second of peace, I looked over to 21 and saw her completely overpowering her enemies while absorbing most of them. Even Fused Zamasu couldn't keep up with her. Focusing back on my battlefield, I saw what looked semi-perfect Cell come charging at me while roaring like a mindless beast, but what surprised me was his power was incredibly high, just slightly below that of Myra's, though since he's just a beast he isn't nearly as dangerous. Catching the punch Cell attacked with, I open my mouth and release a ki wave that manages to disintegrate him from the waist up. However, I could see he was quickly healing and I wasn't stupid enough to allow that to just happen. Kicking away half of Cell's body, I fly up higher in the air and quickly charge a plasma stream before launching it directly at Cell's body, and while I was disintegrating him, I sensed Mira appear behind me as he attacked with a ki blade, but since I couldn't move as I still attacking Cell, I expelled a good chunk of my ki, which caused Mira to get pushed back little before he once again tried attacking me. Though that little extra time was all I needed to completely finish off Cell, before quickly turning around and blocking Myra's ki blade with a ki blade of my own. I could see he wanted to say something, but I couldn't care less right now and punched him in the stomach, sending him toward 21, before quickly charging at the base behind as my instincts warned me about Tawa. Sage dash, keep everyone busy, I'm going to confront Tawa. Mira dash, I won't let you. Mira tried chasing after me, but 21 appeared right behind me as she released her ki as if forming some type of wall between me and everyone else, allowing me to confront Tawa in relative peace. 21 dash, hehe, if you want to go after Sage, you'll have to get past me. When I made it just before the base, I turned around and got to witness 21 provocatively standing before a large group of powerful enemies as she refused to move. Sage, I don't really like 21, but I got to admit, she looks kinda badass right now. Anyways, focusing back on my mission as I ignore the battle that's happening above me, I punch a hole into the base and quickly make my way deeper inside while also taking care of any enemies I come across, but after a while of looking I still couldn't find any trace of Tawa. Sage, I can't continue like this, Tawa could escape any second now, so instead, I'll just blow up the entire base as 21 had said space-time energy is a very delicate and volatile energy, so if Tawa was smart she would keep them in a more secured room. Well, either way, if I'm wrong it won't be bad, I planned on destroying the time rings anyways if I had to. Flying through the ceiling out of the base, I aim down with my hand as I launch a galactic burst. Once fired, it immediately starts growing in size, and by the time it collides with the base, its size was already bigger than the base. As my attack sinks into the base, I watch how everything gets destroyed, whether it's living beings or inanimate objects. A few seconds later my attack dissipated and all that was left was a few metal rooms of various sizes at the very bottom of the sinkhole. Flashing down next to the smallest one, I slice it open with a key blade only to find computers, but when I noticed it wasn't Tawa, I quickly flashed to another room and once again sliced it open. However, just like last time, it was just irrelevant items. This time I flashed to a slightly bigger one, and when I sliced it open, I immediately tilted my head as a staff now replaced where my head previously was. Following the staff, I find it was being held by a demon wearing a red dress with white hair, who's also women. Tawa, it's good to finally meet you. Now let's just make this easier on the both of us, and die. Standing right before Tawa, I launched a galactic burst at her, yet she managed to teleport away to safety. Yet my plan was never to hit her, it was to destroy the lab she was in. However, before all of her equipment was obliterated, I didn't find any times rings, much to my disappointment, but that just means Tawa must have them. Turning around and grabbing hold of the staff she attacked me with, I felt an evil energy invade my body from the staff and head straight toward my head. Tawa, nothing but a stupid beast. With my energy inside of you now, it is only a matter of time before I corrupt your mind and force you into submission. You will be an excellent slave. I guess the evil energy that invaded my brain was supposed to allow Tawa to control me, though the moment it entered my mind it was immediately suppressed. No doubt that energy is very dangerous, but for 40+ years I've been keeping my anger in check. Did she think I would be so easily defeated? However, I decided to play along, so I stopped moving and just floated there for a while. Tawa, quicker than I expected, but I shouldn't have expected much from nothing but a dumb brute, and to think I thought something bad would happen. Now with me gaining him as a slave, taking care of 21 shouldn't be too difficult. I heard her speak those words as she walked closer to me, and when she arrived right before me I instantly exploded out at a speed too fast for Tawa to react in time and squeezed her neck. When Tawa realized what had happened, she tried waving around her staff, so I yanked it out of her hand and threw it away in the distance. It made me feel good as it seemed to be something of importance to her, considering she's been only attacking me with it. Tawa, but how can a stupid animal like you escape from my control? Sage, that's where you're wrong, genius. I was never under your control in the first place. Your little mind control ability wasn't even that powerful to begin with, so what gave you the confidence that you could control me with it? At my words, I saw how her eyes widened in response as she tried breaking free from my grasp, but honestly, her strength wasn't that much. Kakarot and Vegeta might have had a little difficulty when fighting her, but without her magic, she isn't even a threat to me. While she continued to try and break free, I quickly checked her body and clothes to see if I could find anything related to the time rings, but even after ripping her clothes off, I couldn't find anything. Sage, can't restore items within his staff. When I thought of that, I let go of her neck, causing her to drop to the ground while taking big gasps for air, but when she tried to get up and fight back, I gave her a good punch to her head, knocking her out, leaving her to sleep naked in some rubble. Now usually I would have killed her, but one thing I know about magic users is that they are usually hard to truly kill, and I'm definitely not about to try and kill someone who can manipulate space-time energy. Who knows what type of crazy shit she has as backup. Better to have Klonoa deal with this. As I walk over to the staff I threw in the distance, 21 appears beside me covered in blood with a satisfied smile on her face while carrying a bloody and injured Mira by the neck before throwing him over next to where Tao is laying. Within the vicinity, I can only sense 3 different key signatures, which means 21 has defeated everyone else, or more accurately absorbed them all, cause I can sense 21 has once again gotten considerably stronger than before. 21 have you found the time rings yet? Sage no, I had checked all over Tao's body and I couldn't find them, though I'm going to check her staff, which is the last place I haven't looked yet. Once we arrived near the staff, 21 picked it and she seemed to be analyzing it before she pointed it towards the ground while muttering the words, time rings. Immediately after, a beam shot out from the crystal sphere and several time rings appeared on the ground. Most of them were green, but every now and then you would see a silver one. Seeing the number of different timelines 12 universes had together surprised me a little, because I know the Supreme Kais are supposed to do their best to limit the number of different timelines. Yet, from this pile alone I counted 30 different timelines, and going by that logic that means on average each universe had more than 2 different timelines. Sage so should we just destroy them or give them to Klonoa, because I don't know if there are any consequences for destroying a time ring? 21 nope, it'll just make it so Supreme Kais can no longer go into the future without creating another timeline, not like any of the Supreme Kais do their job anyways, to begin with this many time rings. Since there was nothing stopping me from destroying them, I went ahead and fired a ki blast at the pile of time rings before me, and they instantly got destroyed, yet the moment they did I barely managed to dodge a kick coming from behind, but I couldn't block the punch to my abdomen in time. 21. With the time rings having been destroyed, that means Tawa can no longer unseal Demigra, which means we are now no longer allies. With the boost in power I received from devouring everyone beforehand, you won't be able to defeat me, Cupcake. It's finally time for me to devour you. Rising from the ground, I look at 21, who is sporting a sadistic smile on her face as she slowly makes her way over to me. However, even when severely outpowered, I'm not one bit worried. From the moment 21 informed me about Tao's location with the time rings, I thought a situation like this could happen, but I was fine with it, as the Zenkai I received from fighting Cumber had increased my power. Seeing 21 stop a few meters in front of me, I get into a fighting position while powering up to full power, yet I don't stop there, and used Ikari on top of that, causing my body to slightly bulk up once again. Sage dash, haha, come on, let's go. We're currently tied 1-1, so whoever wins this fight will be in the lead. I saw a smile appear on her face as she got into a fighting position across from me.